Forget what you heard. PDIP was never gonna be an opposition party. Prabowo issued an unexpected amnesty. PDIP finally held its long-delayed Congress to decide where it stands. And behind the scenes, power plays had been unfolding for weeks. All eyes were on PDIP. Would they take a bold stand? Would they finally declare themselves as opposition? Instead, they landed right in a gray zone. Not opposition, not government, just somewhere in between. It might sound surprising, but in Indonesia, true opposition isn't just rare, it's almost impossible. To understand why, we need to look at how opposition really works in Indonesia, because it's not as simple as being in or out of the government. And later, we'll look at what PDIP's move really signals and how Prabowo may be quietly shaping the balance of power. In some democracies, opposition means a party that pushes back hard, challenges the government, and offers a clear alternative. But in Indonesia, that almost never happens, and the reasons might surprise you. A big reason is how coalitions work here. Presidents don't just invite one or two parties into the cabinet, they bring in almost everyone, and most cabinets include 6 or more parties. That leaves almost no one outside, and in the current parliament, 8 parties hold seats, which means nearly all of them end up sharing power instead of challenging it. This is also shaped by the system itself. That's why the word opposition can be misleading here. In parliamentary systems, opposition is a formal role, but Indonesia has a presidential system. Parties don't divide clearly into government and opposition. And while Indonesian politics may sometimes feel like a parliamentary system, the structure doesn't require or reward parties that stay outside. If history tells us anything, it's that parties in Indonesia almost never stay in opposition, and it's not for the reasons you might expect. Look at the SBY era. From 2004 to 2014, PDIP stayed out of his government, and yeah, they pushed back at times, like over the Bank Century case, and even talked about impeachment, but most of the time, they still worked with the government in parliament. The conflict was more personal than political. Megawati was upset that SBY left her cabinet to defeat her in the 2004 presidential election. So PDIP was out, but not entirely against him. Now, you might think that Gerindra was a real opposition during Jokowi's early years. After all, Prabowo ran against him twice. But if you look closer, from 2014 to 2019, Gerindra often cooperated in parliament. They voted for major government programs. And when Prabowo lost in 2019, he joined Jokowi's cabinet as defense minister. So with that move, Gerindra officially joined the government, but in practice, they had already been cooperating for years. And the Democrat Party, same story. They were outside of the government for 10 years, from 2014 to 2024, but they avoided confrontation and often backed government proposals. And PDIP, even before the amnesty for their Secretary General and the recent party Congress, they were already cooperating with Prabowo's government in parliament, backing legislation and helping shape key bills. They weren't acting like an opposition party. Even PKS, the one party that stayed out of most government coalitions, is cautious. They're strong on religious and social issues, but in parliament, they often vote with the majority. They criticize, but not too much. So why does this keep happening? Well, there are 3 big reasons. First, if you're outside of the government, you lose power, influence, and access to state resources. That makes it hard for parties to stay relevant and grow. So most parties try to stay close to whoever's in power, and even if they're not officially part of a coalition, they often act like they are. Second, most Indonesian parties don't have strong ideologies. They're not built on beliefs. They're built on personalities and staying close to whoever's in power. And third, Indonesia just doesn't have a culture where opposition is expected or rewarded. Analysts say no party really tries to act like an alternative government. Standing outside doesn't help them win votes. It just puts them at risk of being left out. But even with all that, you might still wonder, has there ever been a party that chose to be opposition on purpose? Not because they were left out, but because it stood for something. Yes, but only once, and it didn't end well. In the late 1950s, two parties, Masyumi and PSI, chose to be opposition based on principle. Masyumi wanted a democratic government that respected Islamic values, and PSI focused on civil liberties and strong institutions. They criticized Sukarno's growing power and opposed the Communist Party, and they refused to join cabinets that they disagreed with. It was Indonesia's first and last true opposition. And by the late 1950s, some of their leaders were linked to a regional rebellion, and Sukarno banned both parties in 1960s. This sent a message to every party after them. Push too hard from the outside, and you might not survive. This is why Indonesia rarely has a loyal opposition. Most parties don't stay outside because of principle. They stay outside because they didn't get seats in a cabinet. And when they get a chance to join, they almost always take it. So, what's next? Well, PDIP will continue to act as a strategic partner and support the government in DPR. But a key moment is coming soon for both Prabowo and PDIP. In Indonesian politics, the one-year anniversary of a president's term is a key time for major reshuffles, and Prabowo is no exception. Expect big cabinet changes around mid-October this year. And that reshuffle won't be just about rewarding new allies. It'll also be a way to dial back Jokowi's lingering influence and replace underperforming coalition partners, political holdovers, and give Prabowo more space to steer parliament and government his way. So even if PDIP's new position looks symbolic, it likely sets the stage for a much bigger realignment, one that helps Prabowo tighten control and reshape the balance of influence around him.